I appreciate Paul doing that because I think asking anybody for money is a very difficult thing. If you've ever had to raise support or you've ever had to, I remember even as a kid in school, every once in a while we'd be asked to raise money for something, and that was just torture. I did sales many, many years ago for a few months. I'm not talking about retail sales where people come to your store. That's not that hard to me. But, now I know it is because people are mean. But I remember where you call on people and it's a lot of rejection. It's hard, and I didn't last long in that. So whenever somebody is willing to step up and ask the hard question, I appreciate it. So thanks, Paul. Also, before we get started, I just wanted to say that worship is an interesting thing, isn't it, when it's music? I think worship, we worship in a lot of ways. Music is just one of them. But it's just interesting. You can always tell when there's a new song and people don't quite know that, and they kind of hold back a little, or maybe you don't like to sing, or you feel awkward, or you're getting over a cold and it squeaks. That's how I know when I've gotten over the cold, is I can finally sing again without it sounding crazy. But I was reading something Charles Spurgeon, a Baptist preacher from the 1800s, said of worship. And he said, "We ought not to worship God in a half-hearted sort of way, as if it were a duty. No, may all that is within me bless his holy name. Come, my heart, wake up and summon all the powers which wait upon thee." And I just think, wow, I want to do that when I sing. I want to do that when I walk into this sanctuary. I want to ask God to come and wake up what needs to be woke in me. And I hope that's what you're thinking about today. So thank you for worship today. Let's take a minute and just pray. Why don't we? Father, I just thank you for being with us and in us. I thank you for your majesty that I've seen watching the moon every night this week. It just screams out that there's something else going on besides us. I thank you this morning for that perfect V of geese that flew over the house, and I think about your perfection and your orderliness in your creation, that there's a way you do things that I don't always understand, but it's beautiful to behold. I know you were in the argument yesterday that I was having with my husband. It was mostly my fault probably, but I know you were in it. And I think it's why we're still married, because you've been in every one of those. And I know you were there when we were talking to the bartender about his 16-month-old daughter who's just not getting over her sickness. And I just thank you. Even when we don't know or recognize or acknowledge that you're there, that you are there. And you are here, and I'm grateful. So thank you, Father. Just give us ears to hear this morning. In Jesus' name, amen. Isaiah 12, you heard Dirk read it. I'm just going to focus on verse 2. Surely God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. The Lord himself is my strength and my defense, and he has become my salvation. Do we trust him? Are we fearless? Do we look for him to defend us instead of always trying to defend ourselves? In the culture we live in, it seems like everybody's trying to defend something, right? Everyone is talking all the time. I've been on planes a little bit in the past few months, and somehow, more than once, I have been seated behind people who are talking very loudly about seemingly very insignificant things. And they go on and on, and it's like being forced to watch a reality TV show you can't turn off. I keep forgetting to take headphones. I'm like, I need to take headphones because I can feel the anger building. When we talk all the time, we don't have a chance to hear another voice. And I often wonder if God tires of hearing what I spend the most time talking about. Kind of like me on the plane. being forced to listen to them. I like how Isaiah says it twice, the Lord himself. Like, think about it, the Lord himself. Yeah. He is my strength and my defense. He has become my salvation. This is a song of praise. This chapter in Isaiah, the prophet has been changed, not by the power of man and what man can do, but by the mercy and grace of God and its effects on him. French theologian John Calvin said, when the Lord is our strength, it means he is our resource, our refuge. We look to him for our needs. He isn't part of our strength. He is our complete strength. He is who makes us strong. Question is, do we trust God? Do we believe he is with us and for us? Author Anne Lamott teaches a Sunday school class for first graders. She once asked one of the boys in her class if he believed God was always with him, helping him. He thought about it for a minute, and he looked at her and he said, maybe 40%. What would you say? What percent? Does it feel like God's with you 50% of the time, 20, 15, 70, 100? I loved Mike Donahue's talk a couple of weeks ago when he encouraged us to think, not just feel, right? I mean, it's easier to just feel and assume that what we feel is what is true. Because it can feel sometimes like you're alone, like God isn't there. But what God says in the Bible would contradict how we feel. It's one of the reasons it's important to know what he says. Mike sends out a newsletter related to his work with Search, and this last week he was talking about how fewer people identified as being Christians in 2019 than just 12 years ago, so 13% fewer. And he went on to say, faith is hard. Here's his quote, work, money, performance, and acceptance feel much more compelling and seem to promise more meaning than a relationship with God. Is that what you experience? Does affirmation at work give you more of a sense of purpose than being a child of God? You know how it makes you feel so good when somebody recognizes something. Or does having lots of followers on social media matter more to you than who you're actually following in your life? I went to see the movie Harriet recently. It's the story of Harriet Tubman, born into slavery as Araminta Ross in the early 1800s on Maryland's eastern shore. She took the name Harriet Tubman when she became free because she felt like she was a new person. Things were now different. So Harriet was her mom's name. Tubman was her first husband's last name. It's interesting. He was a free slave. So he had been a slave, but had been given his freedom when they married. And when she decided to run away to Pennsylvania, a free state, he wanted to go with her. But she was afraid that if he got caught while they were running, he would lose his free status. So she decided to go without him. She walked, she ran nearly 100 miles to her freedom. And when she made it to her destination, a man asked her, "Where are the others who came with you?" And she said there were no others. And he was surprised. "You made it all by yourself? You came alone?" And she said, "Oh, no, I wasn't by myself. God was with me the whole time. He was watching over me." She had this spiritual sensitivity that I'm sure was cultivated early on in her life, that she was always hearing from God. You know, slaves weren't expected to talk much. So I wonder if she didn't have more time to listen for the voice of God. She once said slavery was the next thing to hell, and she spent her whole life helping to free slaves, which is why one of her nicknames was Moses. But what was the most striking thing to me about her story was that strong connection that she had every day relying on the voice of God, till she made a decision to go this way or that way, or she trusted him. And she didn't let her fear, and there were plenty of things for her to be afraid of. She didn't let her fear keep her from doing what she knew she had to do. Because you see, in her mind and in her reality, in her heart, God was bigger than her fear. He was her defense. He was her strength. She said this, "I told the Lord, I'm going to hold steady onto you, and I know you'll see me through." She went on, God's time is always near. He set the North Star in the heavens. He gave me the strength in my limbs. He meant that I should be free. I loved one of the lines she said, and I hope I'm quoting it right. People weren't meant to own people. And there's still people that own people today. I think some of us are slaves to any number of things, but we don't know it or we don't recognize it. So we don't ask God to help free us from that which keeps us enslaved. Maybe we just aren't desperate enough. Harriet didn't figure she had that much to lose when you think about it. If slavery was one step from hell and you were a slave, let's say you died trying to run, that could possibly feel like a reprieve. She was living a very scary reality every day. Now, I have difficult moments. I could have a hard year or week. I could have health issues, sometimes relational bumps in the road. But truthfully, most of the time, I'm pretty comfortable. And if I'm not careful, it can become the goal, being comfortable. We talk about comfort food and comfortable shoes and soft blankets and twinkling lights and cuddly puppies and baking brownies, and all of it makes us feel better. Flannel pants. But it can keep us in a bubble of comfort, not thinking about or challenging ourselves to really look at who God is and what He is thinking, what He's hoping for us to do, what He's created us to do, will strengthen us, empower us to do. Isaiah says, He, God alone, is our salvation. When is the last time you talked to somebody who's older? Someone who's lived a little life? Better yet, when's the last time you listened to someone who's older and has lived a little life? I mentioned Anne Lamott's Sunday school class a few minutes ago. Here's what she says about her very old friends. Now, Anne is 65. So I'm picturing she's talking about people maybe in their 80s. She says, what my very old friends have loved most at the end. They can no longer look to power, stature, schedules, or fame to fill them up. And they sure don't feel like entertaining. I love that line. Because I've been working on, we've got 18 people coming for a shower tonight at our house. And I'm like, this isn't as easy as it used to be. So by the time I'm in my 80s, I am sure not going to feel like entertaining. All those things turn out not to have been eternal. But love is. And that's all. When all the things that have kept us feeling comfortable and secure and successful have faded away, all the things we thought would save and protect us are gone, we start to realize that it's only love that is eternal, and God is love. God is there. God is here. He is ready to speak, and He's ready to listen. So what percent of His time are we willing to settle for? Are you good with 15? Are you good with 20 or 30 or like the 8-year-old 40? Probably one of the hardest things about getting up to teach on occasion here at ChurchOne is the thought that somehow I'm trying to interpret what God has intended for you to hear. Even those who give their lives to studying the Bible disagree often on what different passages mean. Just look up the book of Isaiah. You're going to see all kinds of opinions on who wrote it. Most people think there was more than one writer, but that Isaiah wrote the early chapters. There are actually some people that argue he couldn't have written the later ones because a lot of things he said were happening and he wasn't there then. And I'm like, wait a minute, he's a prophet. But whatever. And I'm not saying it's not important to read the word and to search and to try to find the meaning of things. I mean, we rely on the people who translate the Bible from its original language to do it correctly. That's a big job. But I want to talk less this morning, and instead what I want to take a minute to do is to read some words from God over us. One of the things I appreciate most about being here in this sanctuary on Sunday is just getting to sit still in His presence and consider Him. So I've asked Erin to come up. And during the next couple of minutes, she's just going to play softly in the background while I read. Because I believe there's power in the Word. There's healing and there's hope for today. Sometimes we just need to know He is there. to trust that he is there. So maybe you could just close your eyes and hear his voice through the words that I'm reading from him. I am asking God to give us ears to hear what he's saying to us this morning. I'm also asking his Spirit to keep us from being distracted so that the very words of God can pierce our hearts today. Jay, I am your shepherd. You shall not want. I'll make you lie down in green pastures, and I'll lead you beside still waters. I will restore your soul. Susan, even though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you'll fear no evil, for I am with you. Renee, I'm faithful. I will establish you, and I will guard you against evil. Emma, I'm your rock. Take refuge in me. I'm your salvation. Dirk, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Fear not, for it is my good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Phil, I'll never leave you or forsake you. I'm with you. Do not be dismayed. Do not be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. George, no weapon that is fashioned against you will ever succeed. Martha, I'll keep you from evil. I will keep your life. I will watch over your going out and your coming in today and forever. Debbie, I'm a present help in time of trouble. I will rescue you. Though you walk in the midst of trouble, I will preserve your life. Bethany, in all things you are more than a conqueror through my love and my power. For I know that neither death nor life, nor angels nor rulers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate you from my love. Michelle, I will rejoice over you with gladness, and I will quiet you with my love. Mary, cast all your cares and all your anxieties on me, because I care for you. I am merciful and I'm gracious, slow to anger and abounding in love. And I comfort all who mourn, and I present them a crown of beauty instead of ashes. Chris, I know the plans I have for you, plans for good and not evil, to give you a future and a hope. So walk in me, you will not be shaken. Pat, don't lose heart. Even though your outward self is wasting away, your inner self is being renewed day by day. For whatever light, momentary affliction you have, it's preparing you for an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison, as you continue to look not to things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are fleeting, but the things that are unseen are eternal. So rejoice in hope, be patient in suffering, and be constant in prayer. Ray, I'm here. I'm in your midst. Seek my strength and my presence continually. Remember, I will not let you be tempted beyond your ability, but with the temptation, I will provide a way of escape so that you will endure. Be still and know that I am God. Do not be quick to speak. I am in heaven and you are on earth. Let your words be few. Lisa, this is the day I've made. Rejoice and be glad in it. Peggy, I am the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth, and I do not grow faint or weary. I give power to those who do, and those who wait for me will see their strength renewed. They'll mount up with wings like eagles. They'll run and not get weary. They'll walk and not faint. You can do all things through me because I am the one who gives you strength. Laurie, do not be frightened, for I am with you wherever you go. I am your light. I am your salvation. I bind up the broken, and I free the captives. If you have faith like a grain of mustard seed, you will say to the mountain, move from here to there. It will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. Be strong and be courageous, for it is I who goes with you. In this world, you'll have trouble, but take heart, for I have overcome this world. These are the words of God.